So let's get moving. Chaim Eckstein, you came across my radar and a lot of other people's when you did that big article in the Ami magazine about wedding expenses. You're trying to make a wedding for $10,000. I saw it. I was very intrigued by the idea. My whole family discussed it. A short while later, I wrote a post that went viral about wedding invitations. I wrote that I don't see these paper invitations. They come, half the time they get thrown out. I don't know what the point is. It's a waste of money. Send me a text, send me an email. And then someone connected us, and this they brought us together. So we're talking today, and I'd love to learn about who you are. What made you take on this campaign? What brought you to this place?
Okay, so let me tell you this, Joel. The whole thing started. I'm in the financial services business for the past 20 years already, and I see people's finances. I see where they're struggling. I see where they have goals, and I see where all their goals and their planning fall apart when it comes to simchas, when it comes to making chasanas. And a few weeks ago, about 6 weeks ago, I think it's already 6 weeks, my son got engaged, Baruch Hashem. And I had a conversation with the Mechot. And the Mechot, he's a hardworking person and he's making parnosa, but he doesn't have extra money to just throw in the garbage, like most of us don't have. And we had a conversation that we're going to make sure we're only going to spend money on things that we really feel is important, on things that we feel that we want to do, we want to spend. And after making that decision, I thought to myself, so many hundreds of people, thousands of people are having, making simchas, and the time that their simcha should be, the time of their life that should be the most precious time, the most beautiful time, they fall apart and things don't work for them. And this could stop. So I came up with this thing, you know what, let me do a $10,000 wedding challenge. I'm going to try to make this wedding for less than $10,000. Now, when I say $10,000, I don't mean $10,000 the wedding night. I mean from the lechayim until after Sheva Bruchas shouldn't cost more than $10,000. And a lot of people mistake me with that. They think that I'm talking about the wedding night. I'm talking about the whole package. Hakwe Baka Mikot shouldn't be more than $10,000. Now, when I did it, I wasn't sure if I'm going to succeed with it. I thought maybe I'm going to terribly fail and it's going to be $15,000 or $20,000. But I took the chance. Let's see how this is going to work. And I invited people to join a WhatsApp group where we're going to be able to do this together. And when I did it, I thought I'm going to have maximum of 100 people joining this group. After 4 hours of opening the WhatsApp group, I had over 4,000 followers, people who wanted to know more, who wanted to get involved. Of course, I had to lock the group. I couldn't allow everybody to just participate and talk and start sending messages. It would go, it would go out of hand. So I started posting things, and then all of a sudden the media was all over me, including the Ami magazine. They came to me, they asked me for an interview. I gave them an interview, and this is, I had, I think, over 12 or 13,000 views on LinkedIn itself on this Ami interview. This is how it all started. And then you sent this message about the invitation that you got frustrated, which happens to be, I spoke to my wife yesterday about it, and she said that she's a big fan of still sending paper invitations. I'm just telling you, I don't like it either. But, there are still some people who don't have WhatsApp, that don't have so much access to email, the stay-at-home moms, and they have their own thing, and they want to know about simchas that's going on. But this is how we got connected.
I think that's one of the points of your campaign is everyone should do what they think is right for them, not what is the norm, not what you have to do, but what you should do. Because, if your wife likes invitations and she feels that other people need it, great. Then that's what you should do for you.
Or that's what other mechutunim should do for my wife. They should send her an invitation. But for most of us, why do we need invitations? I mean, most of us, we send invitations to the whole town that, they're not even interested in the whole chasana. Why should we send it? But even for the people who are interested, send them an email. Put it on your WhatsApp status, send a broadcast on WhatsApp. Why do you need to send paper invitations? Forget about the cost. I'm talking about, it doesn't even make sense. It's not efficient. It's not an efficient way to invite.
So, I mean, that's one of the details of, but so let's continue hearing about the campaign. So you started the campaign, you challenged yourself. Now you've got thousands of people following you. The pressure is on. number one, I have a question to you. Did this come about because you simply couldn't afford it, or because you said, this is it? We have to. There must be a new way for people like me going into this parsha.
It's a good question. And before I answer you that, I want to define what afforded means. What does it mean I can or I can't afford it? Let's say I'm earning enough money and from my income, I can afford to spend $100,000 for a chasana. Does that mean I can afford it? Number one question is, do I have enough passive income already that if I want, I should be able to retire now? And if I don't, then I can't afford it. And if I can afford it, the second question is it important or is it not important? Would you take, if you, let's say you're a billionaire, would you take $1 million, just flush it down the toilet for no good reason? Maybe you can find a better place where to allocate this money. So the question is not about being able to afford it. The question is if it makes sense altogether to spend on the things that most people spend, and the only reason they spend on that is because everybody else is doing it. And somebody is mentioning now in the chat, I recently, actually that's your father, Yashi.
Oh.
So I think we should give a big
Tati.
shout out.
Big shout out to Tati.
I'm sure your father is very proud to join your meeting here.
My father's been talking about this subject for many, many, many years before the whole Takunas thing started. He always had his own ideas. Unfortunately, his mecheturim didn't always agree with him, but he always had this idea of exactly like you say. Just because you can afford it doesn't mean you have to spend it. And why should you? In fact, why should you invite 1,000 people to eat chicken? In a basement on McDonald Avenue. So that's
and it's an interesting thing. You talk about mechetunam. You know how many people tell me the same thing, that I would make the wedding in my dining room, but my mechutun. And then the funny thing is, you go to the mechutun, he says the same thing. I would make the wedding in the dining room, but my mechutun. I just spoke to your mechutun, he says the same thing. So it boils down to a lack of communication with a lot of people. And I just got an interesting message from somebody like last week. He sent me a copy of an article in Hamodia from 1988. And this person is basically describing in the article what happens when people make chasanas and they can't afford, they can't afford the chasana, they can't afford all these expensive things. And back then it was the norm, a 10-man band, and it was even more crazy than today. I don't know how much you remember from them, but it was terrible. And then he says, and if the mechutin gets sick before the chasana, within minutes that tzula is going to be there. If he needs an emergency surgery, we have a few organizations that are going to make sure he gets the best doctors. And if he really doesn't have a penny to his name and is drowning in debt, a lot of organizations are going to come and help them. And he goes on and describing how terrible it is. And then this person sends me a message that after every shidduch, my mother used to print this out and send a copy to the mechutin and tell him, this is how I want my chasana to be. I don't want anybody to get sick. I only want to buy what I really want, what we really decide we need, and be on a minimum budget. And this is how she sets the tone for that. So it's a good introduction about mechitona.
But let me ask you this. I mean, traditionally throughout history, I mean, even if you learn the Gemara, it talks about weddings, and you look at a lot of different cultures around the world today. I think the Indians go crazy with weddings. They have 7 parties, and that's how it used to be. I mean, you look at the Shishvinin were a part of bringing together, making the Siddhas. They made a bunch of Siddhas and Siddhas and Siddhas, and they brought gifts, and everyone who came as part of the groom's party, they were the bridesmaids and the groom. This is all that in our tradition that we had. They all participated. They all spent a lot of money on the wedding. It was a very, very big thing. Are we beholden at all to that, or do we look at today, our lifestyle, what we need to do for our families? Baruch Hashem, we have many, many, many families that have 10 kids plus, and is it just time to change the traditions?
My opinion, I tell you my opinion. Everybody can have their own opinion. My opinion is that you should only spend, number one, let's lay the groundwork. We are talking about somebody who wants to be on a budget. If you don't care and money is like, water for you and whatever, then do whatever you want. I'm not going to talk about you. But even for you, I'm going to talk from the perspective of Achnus Eskala, from the perspective of all the charity that you do. So the number one thing is I want to have people understand that there is something called the language of numbers. And the language of numbers is very simple. 1 + 1 = 2. Do I have the money or don't I have the money? That's number one. If you have the money, then we can have a certain conversation. If you don't have the money, then I don't care about what somebody did and what somebody else did or whatever. I mean, you don't have the money. What do you want? It's a Matthias. It's not like I have a Tana with you here. It's not a debate even. It's a Matthias. I don't have the money. What can I do to pass by? Minimum, without embarrassing myself. Like my Mechutin called me the other day and asked me, and it told me about a certain thing, how he wants to do it that will cost very, very minimal. So he told me these words: Chaim, I'm very embarrassed to call you and tell you that, but I'm even more embarrassed to go collect for it. So I made a cheshbon. I'm gonna embarrass myself for a few minutes with you, and not with not embarrass myself to just go around and collect money. So once I have the money, we have this conversation. Is it important or is it not important? Now, I don't know about you. But I can think from by myself. When I make a wedding, and Baruch Hashem, this is my fourth child. I already married off 3 children, and by every child it cost me less. So most people who came to the wedding were not interested in coming. How do I know? Because it was a burden for me when they went make me the wedding. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Every night, I spoke to somebody yesterday. He told me that the day before he was already in bed sleeping. Then all of a sudden, oh, this guy's making a wedding, and I forgot to go. So he jumped out, he dressed up, and he went. I asked him, "Did you really enjoy it?" No. Why did you go? Because I make business with them. I had to go. So most people are not even interested. If you really want to have a good time with the people that are really connected to you, close relatives, etc., call them to a Sheva Brucha. So just call them for a lunch. I mean, maybe you don't even need you don't need a chusn kala. You just want to have a good time with them. Go have a good time with them. You ask most chusn kalas by the Sheva Bruchas. It's a burden on them. They're not interested in the Sheva Bruchas. But I think before we continue, Joel, I just want to. I see that your father sent a message. So let me just read it loud to make sure that it gets addressed. So he says here, I recently got an invitation that was on a minimum of $10 per invitation, plus about $3 per postage. You know something? I wouldn't be surprised if nothing is done on that in 10 years from now, that's the norm. And you, Yashi, Joel, or whoever listens is going to have to come up with some achnus skala for somebody that we can't embarrass and have them send a plain paper invitation. I can see that happening. I mean, what do you want from this poor Kala? 18 years, she was going to school, so ehrlich, and then she worked, and then she always was a good kid, and now why does she have to suffer because she has parents who don't make $3 million a year and just have plain invitations? I can see this happening. Do you see this happening?
I like I wrote in my post. I love the $10 invitation. If you're gonna send me something you want me to look at, send me something beautiful. It's gonna go in the garbage, but I'm gonna feel bad. I have one invitation that's sitting around for my wife's cousin in Europe. They sent this crazy invitation, more than $10 probably. It's all velvet. It's beautiful. We're hanging around it'll hang around for another month or two before we stop feeling bad. But at least there's a purpose. The purpose is to show off about your beautiful, beautiful wedding. If the invitation was $10, imagine the wedding, what it's going to look like, right? Great.
Right. And I hope they didn't collect for it.
Yeah, right. And and if you can have someone with white gloves deliver it on a silver tray, that's even nicer. But please don't send me the 99 cents invitation that was printed out, in a Borough Park print shop with I don't know how many stamps you're buying and return card with a stamp. Please stop it. It's going in the garbage. You're wasting money.
But then your father asks about somebody who wants to send invitations so people can send back a check to help out the Nuchus and Kala or the Bar Mitzvah Bucher. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I think that the new invitations with the return cards, whatever you call it, online, right? The RSVP, they all have options today. You can add money. You can join the wedding. What do you call that? The wedding. I forget what they call it. With the goyim do it. They have the the registry, right? They have a registry. So you can reply to the thing, add your PayPal, quick pay, whatever you want. There are ways to do it online, and they'll probably raise more money that way.
I agree. And if you really, I think most people have a pretty good idea who's going to send back a check and who not. And why don't you just make a list, compile a list of all the people that you think they really want to send back a check, and send them invitations to give them the chance. That's a good idea. Why not? For the benefit of the Chus Kala.
So I think we've seen something change in the last 30 plus years, where the community, Baruch Hashem, kind of hard, let it continue to grow. It's grown so large that whatever worked, in the 1960s and the 1970s, at my parents' wedding, they had a couple of cousins, that maybe one or two uncles, and that was it. There was no one there. You cannot continue that style of wedding and simcha celebrating when you do have a community where everyone's having multiple kids, 10, 12 kids, 7 kids, 5 kids on minimum, and weddings and bar mitzvahs every other night. And the community is huge. If you're part of, especially if you're part of Satmar, if you're part of Bells, Vishnitz, you have 1,000 friends, literally. So
Right.
something has to change. What do
I'm
you
very.
say? What do you say about the takunis that's been going on? Why is the takunis not enough?
I tell you what, the tikkunas are very. From one side, it's a very good thing. From the other side, it's again the the fundamental understanding on the tikkunas is that I understand and I agree and I encourage that everybody needs to be the same. And because everybody has a problem, I'm going to come up with tikkunas in order to help everybody. And what happens is, you understand, the rich guy, the wealthy people, the Babatisha people, they don't need the tikkunas. I mean, their life is going to go on like it was before, with or without tikkunas. They don't need it. It's only the average people or the poor people that need tikkunas. And the problem is that even in the tikkunas, they put in things that make people think that they do need it because it's in the tikkun. If I wouldn't have needed it, why should it be in the tikkunas? If I don't need furniture, then the Rebbe would have understood that. The Askuna would have understood that. So why do they put it in the tikkunas to begin with? So they think that because of the tikkunas, that's what I need. And it takes away your individuality, takes away your own control on your brain. And in reality, you don't need, I would say 50 to 70% of what's in the tikkunas you don't need. And that's a big problem. I think people have to they have to train themselves to think for themselves, to use this precious gift that Hashem gave them, called their mind, their brain. And that's the only solution to all these problems.
So one of the things that you're talking about is furniture. Most couples get married and they get beautiful dining room furniture and china closets and bedroom furniture, buffets and mirrors and all kinds of beautiful furniture that they then squeeze into a 1.5 bedroom apartment. So what, based on your experience, you're marrying your fourth child already. What do the couples say about the furniture?
It's so sickening and heartbreaking to see couples few years after their wedding trying to get rid of their furniture. After, I moved about 3 years ago to a new house, and it didn't, I made a different plan how to storage my stuff, and I didn't need the furniture. My father-in-law was working very, very hard to get me this furniture. That was the only thing bothering me, of getting rid of the furniture. I get messages every day, people asking me, can you find somebody who would, just take away my furniture for cheap? I recently met somebody who moved to Eretz Yisrael, and the whole conversation about the move was, how are we going to get the furniture to Eretz Yisrael? What are we going to do? So it's a bother. It's something that makes no sense. I'm married off 3 children, Baruch Hashem. None of them got furniture. I mean, they got furniture, but we bought whatever we needed in IKEA and other stores. And then people ask, wow, how can you buy furniture that in 5 years it's gonna be falling apart? And my answer was, how can you marry off your child when in 5 years they're gonna have to pay schalimat? Go figure it out. Go take you. The husband and wife should go around shopping for furniture whenever they need, whatever they need, based on their budget. If they're not going to have enough money to buy it and they're going to come to me asking, Tati, can you help me? And the Eibster is going to help me, that my budget is going to allow me to help them. Of course, I'm going to help them. What a question. If I really see they need it and they don't have the money, who else should help them if not their parents? But to make it a standard, it has, you know how many people in Williamsburg buy furniture and then they pay for storage because they don't have the apartment yet? That's crazy. I mean, this is the Am Nova and V'chocham. I mean, think to yourself, does this make sense or not?
I mean, it's the Rasha on the Mishkan. Kaufman the furniture. We're buying the furniture where 90% of the time the couples end up moving within a year, 2 years. I don't know how it is in Brooklyn exactly, in Williamsburg, but I'm assuming that most couples are moving within a couple of years, moving to a bigger apartment, moving to a different city, moving out, especially now with so many different new communities around the tri-state area. People are moving. So this whole thing with the furniture, you make a very valid point. Make a plan in a few years from now. First of all, you can start saving up a little bit every month for the furniture. The couple could, if the parents want to help a little bit, they can help a little bit, and you can plan for a different, hopefully for life. When you're in a new place, a few years down the road, you can make a plan, practical furniture that fits your life at that point when you have a bunch of kids.
Right. And you know something, the interesting thing is that when I started speaking to people about it a few weeks ago, I got a lot of rejection saying that we can't do that because of the Chasana Menkalas. The parents for themselves, they would change, they would do everything, but you know, you can't do it because how do I make my Kala agree? How do I make my son agree? And it's so interesting. I started speaking to people about it, and I took my message to the Bukharim and to the Kalas. I can't explain you how much feedback I got, positive feedback. I give an example. Last week, I got a message from a Chusn. I happen to know this Chusn because he messaged me before already. And he told me, I'm holding a few weeks before the Chasana. I know the Nadvan that is paying for my father to make this Chasana because my father has no money. And it bothers me so much. Why are they buying expensive furniture? It makes no sense. What can I do about it? I'm going to feel guilty my whole life. So I asked him, do you know how the Kala feels about it? He told me no. And I gave him an assignment, somehow find out how the Kala feels about it. And you know, this is a Hasidic Satmar family. He never spoke to the Kala from after the Tenoim until the Chasana, until a few weeks from now. So he sent a shliach to ask the Kala what she thinks about the furniture. And he got feedback from the Kala. Basically, she doesn't want the furniture, but she feels terrible not to get the furniture because her chusn, all the chusn siblings got this beautiful furniture. So she can't do it for the chusn. That's the feedback he got. So he involved a few askunim, spoke to his father, spoke to the Kala, spoke to the Mechetunim, spoke to everybody. He sent me a message last week, Chaim, $10,000 donation for this chasana is on your credit. We're not buying furniture. We canceled the deposit. We got back the deposit, and we're not buying the furniture. This is how they feel. I spoke to a yeshiva in Etzisrol a few weeks ago. Ami wrote about it last week. 40 Bukharam. 39 of the 40 Bukharam said they don't want expensive stramlach. They don't want expensive furniture. They don't want all this. You know why we think that they want it? Because we don't speak to them. We don't communicate. We don't explain them what a dollar means, what working means, what saving a dollar means, what compound interest means, whatever. We don't talk to them. Of course they don't want. You ask them, do you want nice furniture or you don't want that? Oh, yeah, why not? I mean, you have to speak to them. They're adults. You think they're ready to get married, right? So speak to them like you should speak to them. And you find out they're very good people. You know, of course, there are always exceptions. 1 out of the 40 was an exception. He challenged me. He raised his hand every few minutes, Chaim, but I want a lot of attention by my chasana, so what can I do? Never. And I kept telling him, you want a lot of attention, make a cheap chasana, and everybody's going to talk about it, that you had the guts to do the right thing. He couldn't get it.
So you're saying there are a lot of ways to cut out, and you got to use your own head. What about the wedding night? What could be changed about the wedding night that you feel needs to be changed? And what are you doing? Let's hear. with your 10K challenge, how are you guys making the wedding night?
Okay, so before I answer you, let me just read this comment that somebody just sent a comment that today's chusn would definitely want to be involved in buying the furniture for his own home. So he would definitely agree to buy it, to buy himself after the chasana together with his wife.
I'm also hearing about Shulam Bayis issues because they take the kala for the furniture, and then they take the chusn to look at the furniture, and then they don't agree.
Yeah, yeah, and this guy that the Joseph who is commenting this, he's probably commenting based on a lot of places where the kala is making all the decisions in the furniture and the chusn has no say in it, and then he just arrives. Hello, this is your house, this is your furniture, this is where you're going to spend the next few years. This is Kizera Iva Kaddish. Take it and sit with it and finish. And the chusn could be a little disappointed in that. I agree. But you asked me about the wedding night. Let me first tell you, I didn't announce it yet because I want to announce everything as it happens. First of all, I didn't even announce. I get messages in the last few days, Chaim, you didn't announce, because I'm announcing every expense I have on this chasana, every expense. I have an Excel sheet, but the problem is I didn't realize when I started this that this is going to be a very boring journey because there is no expenses. and I get messages from people the last week, Chaim, you're not honest. You didn't post what you gave for the kala for Hanukkah. And it's true, I didn't post, and I'm going to post it probably today or tomorrow. But for this group, I'll let you into the secret before I'm going to post it. I gave her a beautiful chocolate arrangement. I believe it cost me about $35. I didn't post it yet because I wanted to have pictures from it before. I want to be able to post the picture as well. But this is how much it cost me. A menorah that Mechetunim spent $1,500, $2,000 to give for the chusna menorah. My son got a menorah. I promise you it didn't cost for my Mechutun more than $150. I promise you. It's a beautiful menorah. I think it's kusher l'ketchila. I mean, I looked at it. I loved it. I was staying in my home by the Chanukah, and I'm looking at my menorah. That it's a beautiful piece of silver. My father-in-law worked for this menorah probably 2 weeks just for this menorah. 9 to 5, about 80 hours of my father-in-law's life went in to this piece of silver. And I'm looking at it like, schmuck that you are. I mean, you didn't have the cycle to call your father-in-law not to do that. I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking to sell it and go give him back the money. I don't know what to do. And then I'm looking at the other side of the table, my son's menorah. Beautiful menorah. My son has a smile from one ear to the other, sitting enjoying the Chanukah. שחייוני וקימוני והגיעו לי לזמן הזה, שגיוסו ניסם לבסייני, והיום מהם בזמן הזה. Is he missing anything in his life because the menorah only cost $150? I mean, his father-in-law worked a few hours for it. My father-in-law worked a few weeks for it. I couldn't stand it. Sorry, I went off track, but you asked me about the wedding night. So the wedding night, I'll let you in on the wedding night also. I'm going to announce it when it comes, and I'm not going to give the full details now, but all I can tell you is the whole wedding night, everything included, is going to cost less than $5,000 together, meaning $2,500 a mechitten. Between $2,000 and $2,500 each mechitten. The changes that we're going to do is, number one, is going to be buffet style. It's not going to be catered. Number two, we're only going to order portions that we really need. We're not going to invite the entire town. And it's not going to be live music. It's going to be recorded music. I don't know exactly how. DJ, MP3, I don't know. I promise you it's going to be very, very Lebedik. I promise you. I know my family, and I know that they're Lebedik people, and they're going to make it very Lebedik. And I also promise you that 2 months after the wedding, my son is not going to even remember if it was live music or not. So, we're not going to have a batchi. And it's an interesting thing. I speak now, I got exposed to so many different circles, and I see that everywhere we have this problem, but every place has a different problem. Like, we are crazy. The Hasidische world is crazy with the furniture. The Litvische world, I think, are spending more by the Chasana night than we are spending. So I think if we take together the entire Klalitz rule and we just learn the good points from each other, it's going to be a shleimus. Then it's going to be perfect. The problem is that everybody has a different thing. And it's all good and fine when the money is there. But when you have a tight budget, every expense I have for this wedding, I'm trying to do it from the lens of somebody who's on a tight budget. And I also think for myself, even if I have the money, maybe I have a better place to spend the money. Maybe I should buy a house for my child after a year. I don't know. Whatever it is.
So do you feel, I mean, in regards to the wedding night, I have a little bit of a different perspective. I love a beautiful dinner, a beautiful music and wine, but I like it for myself and for my close family, my brothers, my sisters, a couple of close friends, 30, 40 people. It's beautiful. It can cost $200,000, but for 30 people, not for 3,000 people. I think that's one of the ways that people can change to the a big change is inviting everyone to the meal. Everyone
Right.
can do that.
Right. And the other option could be that you do a simple wedding that costs very little, and you spend more money on a good sheva bruchas that you want to do for your immediate family or for your very good friends, colleagues, people that you really want to have a good time with. And the truth is, you don't have to do it by the time of a wedding. You can make a system that every time your son or daughter gets married, exactly 1 month after that, you're renting out a big boat, and you're spending $300,000 on this occasion, and you really have a good time with your friends. I mean, if your son or daughter is up to it, you can invite them as well.
Take your friends out to dinner, right? This whole thing
Right.
too with the music, suddenly every person that has a couple of dollars has become an expert in music. He needs the best musicians and singers to entertain him. If you love music, go to a concert, pay $36 for a ticket, not $36,000. Enjoy your music and go home.
And if you
So
don't want, if you don't want to go to a concert for whatever reason, then go to a chasana that somebody just spent $20,000-$30,000 for music and enjoy it. The mechutton is the only person who does not enjoy the music by his own wedding, his own child's wedding. He's
so
busy.
from my perspective, I think there needs to be a shift. And I think that wealthy people need to start feeling for other people. Yes, you can afford it. If you can afford it, does that mean you have to throw it out? You don't have to impress anyone. You're wealthy, Baruch Hashem. You can pay your bills. No, everyone knows about it. Everyone knows you're wealthy. You don't have to, pay for them to know it again. Do your simcha for you, for your family. Make a big simcha chusam v'kala. Make a private shev brachas if you need to. But I think even that, this whole event thing and party thing, I think it's people that there are a few wealthy people that do it, and then everyone that's wealthy or want to be wealthy is doing it so everyone else thinks. So from top down, people need to start feeling, what do I and my wife want, and let's start educating our kids about what's important, and then the rest of the communities. I mean, if Mr. Wealthy just made a very small wedding, why can't I? That's part of the message here, I think.
I think that is very important, but I think it's even more important to start looking at yourself. Meaning, I don't want the average earner or the less than average earner to think that if Mr. Wealthy is going to do this, then I'm going to do this. And if not, I just sign them the permission to throw me into the pit. I mean, why should I give up my life if Mr. Wealthy does not want to do the right thing? You don't have money, you don't do it. You do whatever makes sense. And the other thing is very, very important. I want you to understand, when I say you, I mean the listeners and myself and everybody else. When we make a simcha, we're very emotional, we're very excited, we think that, this is our time. Just know and understand that the way that others look at you by the time of your simcha is no different than how you look at them at the time of their simcha. Of course, you make a simcha 3 o'clock in the morning, you rested, you're in for it, and from your side, you can stay until 6 o'clock in the morning. But these other people are feeling now the same as you felt 2 weeks ago, when you were sitting 3 o'clock in the morning by Chasana, and the Batchen schlept and gekrochen auf the nerven, they feel just as impatient now. So, try to be able to think a little bit logically in your emotional time. And the way to do that is from looking from somebody else's perspective. And if you really can't do it, just remind yourself how you felt a few weeks ago by somebody else's simcha. I think if these few things fall into place, it's going to be amazing.
So how do you sustain that? Meaning you started this thing, you didn't try to start a revolution, you started a challenge, and then a whole bunch of people followed you and are following the journey way more than you thought possible. The only way this is really going to work, if it's sustainable, if people continue to do this, so you do it, your friends do it, their kids start doing it, and suddenly it's a cultural thing where people have changed. They are no longer spending $50,000 on a wedding plus. How do you what's the plan to keep this actually the movement going? How could you keep it going?
It's a good question, and the thing is that every day I'm finding out new ways how this is going to continue. And of course, for it to have a longevity, it cannot be a Chaim Eckstein thing. It has to be everybody getting involved in it. That's why we're having this conversation. Now you, Joel, are getting involved in it as well, and a lot of kehillos reached out to me, and they started doing certain things on their own way. And I had Koi Chayochet started doing things on their own way. I was not involved in that directly, but they started doing things, and I'm not necessarily agreeing to everything they do, and it's okay. They should do whatever they feel they should do, and everybody has their cook to do it. The fact that a mechitin calls me up last week that his son got engaged and he sent $1,000 bracelet to the Kala, and the Kala sent it back to him saying, I like crystal better than silver. And he ended up buying a $90 bracelet for the Kala instead of $1,000 bracelet. That means that it has longevity. That means it's continuing. And this is how it's going to continue. Everybody is looking what everybody else is doing. And I can't, I wrote a lot about it. I encourage people, give the articles to your children, talk about it at the Shabbos table. And this is for their benefit. It's not for you, it's for them to have normal lives. This interview we're doing now is recorded. Give them the recording to listen to it, to watch it. Become involved. Try to involve them. Make it a culture. Make it a atmosphere of doing the right thing regardless of what others say.
So going to, my father sends me a message. He says, important to start talking to the boys in the yeshivas and the girls in high schools from 9th grade. Do you think it's realistic to start a program talking to schools, talking to yeshivas, talking to the boys and girls directly, educating them about finances, letting them know what happens in families, the stress, the heartache?
I think it is important, and that's exactly what I did in Eretz Yisrael in that yeshiva. And I have some other yeshivas already reached out to me. And, it's not that I have to speak to them. They can all speak by themselves. It has to be, I think you have to start treating them like adults. That's what it boils down to. They're adults. They're older children that they can understand. Explain them what it means that your father is paying schalimet for you, what it means that, interest, when you spend $1,000 on something you don't have and you put it on a MasterCard, what happens the day after? Explain them, start giving them perspective. You know how many people, one wedding, when you're age 40, one of your children gets married, if you wouldn't have that expense, you'd put it away for your retirement and you let it grow, that by itself would be enough to have you retire fully by age 65 or 70. People don't get it. I think one of the reasons that you don't speak to children about it is because you don't understand it. And if you don't understand, you can't speak to your children about it. They have to start getting educated. The only reason the parents understand it is because they start feeling it when the time comes. You have an Amazon company. How many people in Amazon don't understand the numbers? They just
Many, very,
yeah.
very many. They
Exactly.
see the numbers. I tell them, listen, you're you could be saving $20,000, $30,000 a month. People running their businesses. I mean, you see this, and they're throwing money down the drain, and they don't even realize it takes time. It takes a long time for it to enter their heads. So certainly,
Right. And you know when they figured it out? When they're already $1 million, $2 million, or $5 million in the red, which is terrible. So we have to educate ourselves. We have to educate our children. And I know from experience speaking to children, most of them, I mean, of course, there is always exceptions, but most of them are such good boys and girls. They want to do the right thing. Especially your Kala. I mean, I mean, I'm sure you did some due diligence, right? You asked about her midas. You asked about how flexible she is. Is she a eerlijkheidsdienstige girl? I mean, you asked a lot about a lot of these things. Maybe you also ask if she's a normal, rational human being, and if she wants me to get sick because of her or not. Maybe you add that piece to the due diligence you do. And I mean, most of them are such good children. And the raya to that is because you see after a few years, I mean, after 1 or 2 years, you know, a color, a lady calls me up a few weeks ago. Listen to this. She got a beautiful, nice diamond ring when she was engaged. She was so excited when she got it. She calls me up a few weeks ago and tells me, Chaim, I don't know what to do with myself, where to bury myself. I just found out that my shviger went to a jeweler to take out her diamond from her diamond ring and replace it with a CZ diamond to be able to send me a real diamond. What do I do with myself? I can't look my shviger in her eyes. I told her what she should do. She should go and replace her diamond with a CZ and find somehow a good opportunity to send a good gift to her shviger with her own diamond. But I mean, why did maybe the shviger did it just because she loved her so much and she wanted to do it? Which I'm not talking about that specific story, but it should be something that people should think they have to do. Makes no sense. I mean, one day your children are gonna have to marry over their children. Start thinking rational.
so you started the conversation, and Hashem put you in a place where you're having an effect, and people are listening. What do you plan on doing to continue the conversation?
I was telling my daughter, some people tell me, you know why you can do it? Because you have a son. A chusn is billiger. It's cheaper to marry off a chusn than a kala. So I tell them that based on my experience, most marriages are between boys and girls. So at least 50% cholesterol is going to be saved if you follow me with the chusn side. And then my next child is a daughter. So maybe my next child, I'm going to have to make a $12,500 wedding challenge because 10,000 is not going to cut it anymore. And then until my youngest child, then maybe I'm going to get paid for making a chassan. I don't know. but what I'm continuing to have to do in order to have this, to keep the momentum, I talk about it, I write about it, I encourage people, and then I'm blown away to see how many mechitunam, how many activists, askunam, are getting involved. Yesterday, I got a call from a big askan in Israel. He has an idea how he wants to do certain things, and ask me for if I can come and speak to them and help them. Of course, I'm helping whatever I can, but I think this is something that it's a big balloon that was going on for many years, and it just got to a point that somebody pinched in a needle to it, and the balloon busted, and then we all gonna figure it out somehow, and hopefully in a year or two from now, everything is gonna be in place, and it's gonna be like part of life. You make a chasana, like you make a bar mitzvah. Of course, you can make crazy bar mitzvahs also. And a lot of people message me that this is where it starts, with the ushins, with the bar mitzvahs, with the whatever. Of course, it starts with lifestyle. It starts with your brain, with your opinion of
I
life.
recently went to a bar mitzvah in Lakewood. A cousin made a mitzvah. He didn't invite me, but I figured he's from out of town. I wanted to stop in and say Mazel Tov. So I come in there, and I see there's the siblings and the boys' friends. That was it. That was the whole mitzvah. Blew me
Beautiful.
away. It's amazing. The boys' friends were dancing. They had a good time. The siblings were there. The
Yeah,
parents. That's it.
yeah. And I saw bar mitzvahs that people make in their home. It cost them less than $300-400. And then I saw people, I have people that I have clients. I see them, the child is 5 years old, and they start planning what kind of job to accept in order for them to be able to save for the bar mitzvah that's going to cost $25,000. It's crazy. I mean, that has to be the whole factor of your life. Like, shouldn't you rather take a job that you love and you're going to appreciate every day that you're going into work, and have a less, not such a big bar mitzvah, a smaller bar mitzvah for your child? I mean, everything draait sich the chasanas, mit the bar mitzvahs, mit the ganze whatever. And once you explain this to children, they understand it. I like your father's comment that I should tell that lady to give back the diamond after 10 years. Then she's going to love it. It makes sense. So at least for the first 10 years, this lady is going to enjoy it. But whatever, the point is the point we have to take out from this is these are things that's going on today.
And
many ladies message me different things about how they hated their jewelry. First, I don't like it. First of all, I don't like it. Second of all, I hate the fact that somebody got sick because of this.
And you made a very good point about the bar mitzvahs and the jobs. Really, it's a cultural shift, because the whole lifestyle, everything changes when you don't have this crazy pressure. Everyone I talk to, it's all about, okay, saving up for the chasana, making money for the chasana. That's when you're 20 until you're 40. It's a countdown to the kids' chasanas and to saving and to how am I going to do it and to what job. So right. What you're trying to do is change the entire lifestyle, change the whole cycle right. of this pressure.
You know something, we didn't even talk about what's going to happen when these people are going to start to retire, because we have a big age gap. An entire generation is missing. People who are 70 years old. We don't have too many people from 70 to 80. Wait until that, and it starts to happen. It's such a big rachmunas. These people, they don't have, especially if they were not self-employed, they didn't save money, they didn't invest for passive income. I mean, where in the world are they going to be able to live from when they're going to be older? Who's going to pay for that? The children are going to pay for that. I think the focus of the person should be about myself. What do I do that as long as the Rebbeinu Shalom gives me life, I should have parnusa, and I should be able to use my time efficiently, quality-wise. Think about it. You take a 40-year-old person who does not learn, who didn't save any money. He's not into sports. He's not into exercise. He's not into anything out of work. Nothing. His whole life is my children and work. He's now 70 years old. No work, no children. What do? You become the burden on your children. Every day you call them up complaining about something else. Every day you have to go to the doctor because something else is hurting you. And you become an exhausting human being that is such a stress on society, not doing anything productive with your life. I think people in our age that still have the koiches need to start investing in themselves, investing yourself money-wise to have passive income that you should be able to be self-sufficient, and quality-wise to have something of value in your life besides work and children. Something. Berachnius, begashmius. If you're not up to learning, okay, go do something else. But I think a person should learn just for the fact to have what to do when he's older. I mean, I'm talking begashmius. And if not learning, go start loving some kind of sports. I don't know what. Do something.
That's a whole other conversation we could have.
Yeah, we somehow shifted into that.
But it's great what you're saying. You're saying you're paying down to your kids now, and then they'll need to pay everything back because they'll need to be supporting you when you're 7 years old and no retirement, no job, nothing.
Right.
Very important point.
So invest in your children now to have them understand it. In this way, you're going to have a good life and your children are going to have a good life. Mirz Hashem.
Excellent. Really eye-opening conversation, Chaim. Let's see where this goes. I'm very excited to watch it, and I hope to stay involved in some way.
Mirz Hashem. And I like the conversation very much. And I think, again, a lot of people, as we are sitting and discussing this, they're sitting and enjoying themselves at the Siyam Hashas, which, honestly speaking, if not for this conversation, I would probably be there as well. But
you can still go.
I can still go. That's true. And if if maybe we should do something else like that again when there's going to be no Siyam Shas. Send us messages and let's see where this is going.
Excellent.
Thank
Thank
you
you very
so much.
much.
Hatzlucha ibrucha.